the no tax hike pledge erupting as the fiscal cliff closes in. First, Republican Senator Saxby Chambliss saying this: I care more about the country than about a 20-year-old pledge. Now, Grover Norquist, the guy pushing the tax pledge, is firing back. He says if he plans to vote for higher taxes to pay for Obama-sized government, he should address the people of Georgia and let them know that he plans to break his promise to them. All of this sparking worries that more lawmakers will cave on their pledge as the fiscal cliff nears. To Republican strategist Amelia Chasse. Amelia, thanks for joining us. So,
thank you, Brenda. Thanks for having me.
Are we seeing fractures in the Republican front on this? Are they going to back down on tax increases?
You know, Brenda, what I think we're seeing from both sides of the aisle, Republicans in particular, is in the wake of the 2012 election, they realize that Americans want both sides to come together to come up with solutions, and the fiscal cliff is really the first test of whether the two parties can work together. So I think that's some of the discussions we're seeing happen. You know, in terms of raising taxes, I think Republicans will be making a huge mistake with their constituents if they agree to any proposal that raises taxes for the sake of raising taxes. There's a huge elephant in the room here that's not being talked about in Washington, and it's a real golden opportunity for Republicans, and it's the huge amount of loopholes and deductions in this code. And I think if Republicans agree to a measure like the one the president is proposing, which raises taxes on small business owners before we've addressed these loopholes and deductions and made, you know, the phrase fair share mean fair share for everyone, I think they are going to run into problems when it comes time for their reelection.
But the thing is, the Democrats may not be willing to accept that, to accept changes in the tax code. They may want these tax increases. And the truth is, are the Republicans in kind of a no-win situation? Because if we go over the fiscal cliff, the Democrats can just say, well, it's the Republicans, they didn't compromise.
Absolutely. You know, President Obama and his team of advisors and staff is really good at putting up these straw men like the proposal he's got right now. You know, he goes on the campaign trail and giving speeches talking about millionaires and billionaires, but what Republicans need to get across to their constituents, to the American people, is two things. Number one, a lot of these so-called millionaires and billionaires are small business owners, the mom and pop shop down the street that do not make millions and billions. And number two, it's a false choice that the president is offering, because his proposal would, best case scenario, using his own CBO numbers, raise $82 billion in additional revenue. We've got a $1 trillion deficit. We've got $17 trillion in debt. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a grenade wound, Brenda.
But wasn't the choice very clear in the election? It was, you know, Republicans said no tax increases. They got a president who said we'll have them, and then they lost seats in the Senate.
They did, but they kept the House. The Americans voted in, you know, a government that has two parties that control various parts of the government. And I think the clear message, if there is a mandate from the 2012 election, I think it's that the Americans want both people to get together, or both sides to get together, to compromise, to work out a solution. I don't think it was by any means an endorsement of raising taxes for the sake of raising taxes. I think that needs to be a you know, absolute worst case scenario for Republicans, and there's got to be another way to do it, and there is. It's closing these loopholes and deductions. Democrats know it, Republicans know it.
But do all Republicans know it? Because speak to Senator Chambliss, who basically says, no, I'm doing what's best for the country. I'm not going to live with this no tax hike pledge.
Sure, absolutely. You know, Senator Chambliss, I think, I can't speak for him personally, but I think most Republicans would say that there's a better way to fix the deficit and decrease our national debt than the one the president is proposing, and that's what negotiation is all about. That's what hopefully both sides are doing at the negotiating table. They're coming together and saying, okay, here's your proposal that doesn't solve the problem, the, you know, so-called tax cut or tax hike for the wealthy. And then, you know, what about these loopholes? What about these deductions? Can we come to a compromise? I think that's what Americans are looking for. I think Republicans need to do a much better job of communicating that the reality of the situation, which is that Obama's proposal that sounds great on paper will not fix the deficit.
Well, the clock is certainly ticking. Thanks so much for giving us your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brenda. Thanks for having me.
All right. Violent protests in Egypt